But first, the Can-Am International Sled Dog Race in Fort Kent is one of the biggest sled dog races of the season and attracts teams and spectators from around the country.
Among the mushers this year was Kacey McCarty, a woman from Maine who has been racing since she was a teenager. We hit the trails with her and her team to see just what it takes to compete.
At Fort Elio Kennels in Somerset County,
Easy.
You're guaranteed two things: lots and lots of dogs.
I know, you gotta go on the other side.
And the sound of Kacey McCarty calling for her team.
Get over here, Drakey. Yeah.
McCarty has been racing sled dogs for most of her life and says her love for the sport and mushing all started because of her neighbor when she was a little girl.
Me being a 10-year-old was super intrigued by animals, so I went over there all the time and helped. To the point where my mother was like, okay, if I'm never going to see her, I should probably bring some dogs home. So I convinced her to bring home 6, and then I squeaked in a 7th, and that's how it all started.
By the time she was 15, Kacey was competing in what's known as sprint racing. Those races cover anywhere from 4 to 25 miles of terrain.
From there, we went to mid-distance, and now we're training for 30 to 100 milers. I did try the 250 up in Fort Kent, but we're going to hopefully try that again at some point.
Now Kacey runs her own kennel,
Good girls.
which is home to dozens of purebred Siberian Huskies.
Good girl.
Some of the dogs here are retired from racing.
I know, you can't go today. I'm sorry. Hup.
The others are anxiously awaiting their next trip to the trails.
They free run in their whole pen daily, and it's actually good for them because at that point they can be dogs and not athletes. They just chill, they just go and play with each other, hang out with each other. Most of the time they don't fight.
Sled dog racing is a seriously competitive sport and takes weeks of rigorous training to get the dogs into top shape.
I know, Grumbles, get in there.
Loading the team into the carrier to do said training,
Good boy.
that is a sport all in itself.
Rebel, atta girl. Easy. Good girl. Good boy. Hup. Easy. Good boy. Chevelle. Where's Chevelle? Chevelle, you're eating. Easy. That guy's 10 and a half years old.
After the team is loaded up,
That's everybody.
it's time to hit the road and head to the trail. One by one, the dogs are released, hooked up, and prepped for the snowy terrain with a harness and booties.
I know, you're so excited.
To keep things in order, Kacey lines up the team as she goes,
Good girl.
starting with her leaders, Chevelle and Teos. Each dog is positioned with precision.
And then this is what I call a safety feature that goes around the harness.
with the most advanced leaders at the front of the pack. Once the dogs are ready, they're secured to the sled.
Because I don't use a neckline between leaders, so this is just a safety catch.
And then
Easy boy.
it's showtime.
All right, Taters, let's go. Hi. Woohoo, good boys. That a team. Very nice. It's magic. It's the whole team just comes together and they work 100% together. They're so in tune with you. Good dog.
Kacey and her team are usually on the trails up to 4 times a week preparing for upcoming races. Sometimes they can go 25 miles, other times upwards of 40.
Well, usually the week before the race, we don't do too much intense training because you don't want them to have injuries or be tired for the race. So we'll just go out and just have fun runs and usually throw different leaders in and just make it wicked fun for them.
And while we might think the bitter cold temperatures are unbearable, the dogs can't get enough.
They love 0 and below. I'm fine with 10. But I don't mind. I go out at 20 below and we can do a 20 miler in like it seems like a blink of the eye because they're flying. Straight through. Good boy! Yay!
We can't get enough either.
Having fun yet?
This is amazing. This is amazing. I want to do this. Boss?
I might not come into work next week.
All right, kids, hit.
It feels effortless, but with this many dogs, something is bound to happen. Luckily, this was an easy fix.
He broke a neckline. He's a big dog. Super strong. Come here. Come. Stay.
A good reminder that a musher has to be prepared for anything, because once you take off, it's just you, the dogs, and the wilderness.
You never know what's gonna be out there. Good dog.
Kacey and her team compete in several races a year. Most recently, she took part in the Wilderness Challenge in Greenville and Fort Kent's Can-Am Crown. She says she looks forward to seeing her competition every year and would like to see the sport grow.
It's slowed down a little bit the past few years. I feel the spectators part is great. I feel money is always an issue with this sport. It is super expensive to maintain a kennel, time consuming, and you have to be 100% dedicated. If you're not and you want to do other things in the winter time, it's probably not for you, because this is your life, basically.
As long as there is snow and a trail to be explored, that dedication will be no problem for Kacey and her crew.
No, this is for me.
Oh my gosh, take me back. Kirk and I had so much fun shooting that story with Kacey and her team. It was awesome.
I'm not taking you back. You're staying here. Because that will consume your life.
It's true. You got to be very dedicated. As we mentioned, Kacey competed in the Greenville Wilderness Challenge and Fort Kent's Can-Am race. In Greenville, she placed 8th out of 16 for the 35-miler, and in Fort Kent, she placed 16th out of 23 for the 100-miler.
It looks so exhilarating.
It's awesome.
Although loading the dogs, unloading the dogs, exhausting.
Yes.